Hello and welcome to the Trader Interviews series from BecauseBitcoin here on the YouTube. This series gives us a chance to sit down with a lot of really great traders and get to know them a bit, learn how they got their start in trading and how they approach these markets. Today, we will be interviewing Max, the CEO of BecauseBitcoin. This interview was done by Valentine, who is a writer for the BecauseBitcoin website. Max had a lot of great answers to provide, whether it was about trading, real estate, how he got his start, the state of the market, the inspiration behind BecauseBitcoin, the brand, and where it will be headed in the future. So make sure you hit that like button. Stick around. It's about a 30 to 40 minute long interview. And with that being said, let's get to it.
So for the beginning, please introduce yourself. Who are you?
My name is Max, and I'm the CEO of BecauseBitcoin.
All right. How did you get into trading and what did you do before?
Yeah, so my background, my first job was actually real estate. When I was 19, I started a property management company while I was studying in college. My partner was a very close friend of mine. We're still great friends to this day, and he's still running it. So my background is not traditional finance or trading or anything along those lines, and I had acquired a handful of properties. Starting with single family homes, working up to some pretty sizable developments in more recent years. But, back in, I believe it was 2018, I have a friend who owns a mobile detailing business, and he, when he was done cleaning my car, I was talking to him for a little while, and he started telling me about Bitcoin. And, I'd heard of Bitcoin, and actually I bought some years prior when Bitcoin was under $1,000. I was still in high school at the time. He was telling me all about him. I thought he was a little bit crazy, like most people. When you first tell them about Bitcoin, they think you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
I like to think I'm pretty open-minded, and he said just look into it. And I remember it was right. He told me about it, and I pulled up the chart right away, and Bitcoin had just crashed, and I basically said to him, "Man, aren't you worried? We just crashed." And now looking back where I am right now, it's such a funny question, because when people ask me that question, aren't you worried? Look what just happened with FTX and Alameda, and look at Bitcoin's chart. Aren't you worried about your Bitcoin? It's so funny in hindsight. But he got me into Bitcoin, and I started studying it, learning more about what Bitcoin is, what cryptocurrencies are, what blockchain technology is, potential use cases, applications, and I'm sure we'll touch more on Bitcoin and my position on that. So I'll save some of those sound bites for later. But how I got into trading was it started with a fundamental belief in Bitcoin and the properties of Bitcoin. I'll go into this more later, of course. I believe it's the most concrete, sound property that any person can own, and from there, it became a rabbit hole. It was, how can I acquire more? Well, I'm out of money, so maybe I can learn to trade. And I had a little bit of exposure just for fun in college trading. I used to trade leveraged commodity futures with some friends, so it wasn't entirely foreign to me, and I've always had somewhat of a healthy appetite for risk. So naturally, I migrated into actually trying to time the market and earn more Bitcoin that way.
All right, sounds awesome. How did you come up with the idea for starting BecauseBitcoin? Or in other words, what was your motivation?
So the initial motivation came from he's an older friend of mine, actually a bit of a mentor, and I orange pilled him a while ago, and he's a very affluent, successful individual, and I got him into Bitcoin, and he's a guy that he doesn't care too much about necessarily the price of it. I think for him, he views it as an economic insurance policy where, if God forbid he has to flee his country, he can memorize his 12 or 24 words and he's got money in his head, where, we saw people in, in Russia, Canada, Ukraine, for different reasons, having their assets frozen or having to leave their country. And, bank runs with fractional reserve banking are a real issue. What are you going to do? Take your business, take your stocks, take your home. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked explaining that. But it's the motivation for it started with him. And the reason being is he would, he'd call me and he'd say, I just read on Forbes or CNBC or Bloomberg, that Bitcoin is this or Bitcoin is that. And it's because of this or it's because of that. And it was usually all wrong. And I can't tell you how frustrating it was to have something that I believe in and that I care so much about be misrepresented by people that truly don't understand what it is and are actually market participants. They're not actually playing the markets. They're basically just these, as I like to kind of jokingly say, they're 22 to 23-year-old NYU graduates living in a one-bedroom in Manhattan with 9 and they get paid $30 to write a clickbait article for Forbes, and you do a little bit of digging into who they are, and they're career journalists, and they don't just exclusively write for wherever you're reading this article. They're freelance writers, and they don't actually understand what they're writing about. They're not paid to understand it. They're paid to get you to click on it because that's how these websites make money now. That's the day and age we live in. So it started with my friend and his confusion being a new participant in this space, trying to understand it better, trying to understand his investment better, trying to understand my passion, the reason behind it. And I've got people muddying the water that shouldn't even be speaking on the topic, are completely unqualified to be giving any sort of advice or even sharing opinions on the topic of Bitcoin or crypto. And I said, we can build out something with real market participants, real players, real investors, and we can do this better. We can create something that's by investors for investors, not by a journalist for an investor. When anybody goes to one of these sites and they click on an article, a financially oriented article, they're interested in some sort of, as people in the industry like to call it, alpha. They want a tip. They want something that's going to give them an edge. They want an insight. But the unfortunate reality is they are not getting any of that when they go to these mainstream media sites, because the people that are writing these articles, their main driver for these articles, whether it's good or bad, it's emotions. What they're doing is they're trying to stir up emotions within their reader, because that's what makes them money. So anybody that's writing for us, they own Bitcoin. They understand Bitcoin. They're a trader, so we wanted to create something that was truly authentic. You don't want to go and learn about real estate from somebody that's never owned real estate. I want to read an article about, buying multifamily investment properties from somebody that has a portfolio that they've been, meticulously acquiring and managing for 2 decades. Not somebody who read another article to teach them about multifamily and is just trying to repurpose somebody else's content. I want real experiences, real alpha, real knowledge from real market participants.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense what you're saying here. Absolutely. On to the next question. How long did it take you to make a living from trading, and what was the key point that made you profitable, if you can recall that?
Yeah. I was thinking for a second. That's it takes a long time to really get the hang of things, because only somebody that, not everybody will necessarily resonate with this. They view trading as so like black and white, but the truth is there's so much gray area with trading. The difference between being profitable and blowing up your account is the thinnest margin, and you wouldn't believe it until you're actually there and you know what I'm talking about. It's the natural progression of trading. It seems like most people start on the same journey where you go down the YouTube rabbit hole and you're naturally attracted to like scalpers, guys trading the 1-minute chart, and they have this philosophy of basically being all cash at the end of the day. They trade the 1 to 5 minute chart, and they make $10,000 in a day, and it seems really easy. And then you realize it's not quite that easy, and real trading and real investing is far more complex than that. I've been trading for probably seriously for maybe probably about 4 years. Before that, I had, like I mentioned, some experience when I was studying in college, which I wouldn't really call myself a serious trader. So I would say I became pretty consistently profitable, where I felt like I had an edge. I still do have an edge, and I'm able to pay for my life and then some. I'd say it's probably taken me 2.5 years to get to that point where you start out, you get your teeth kicked in. Maybe you get lucky once in a while, and then it slowly progressed into I had a good couple weeks, and then you have a bad couple weeks, and you kind of undo everything you did. And then as time goes on, it becomes, I had a good quarter. Oh, I had a good 6 months. Oh, I had a good year. And I think the past couple of years for me have been, I've had a really solid grasp on the markets. I've grown a lot as an individual. I do believe that I have an edge, and I have enough of an understanding where I could trade, and I do trade, full time every single day, and I can consistently pull money out of the markets. So I'd say, it's taken me at least a few years to become what I would call consistently profitable.
Okay, and did you ever think about quitting trading, or in other words, what was your toughest experience in your trading career so far?
Yeah, well, you always entertain the idea of quitting when things get tough, but it's unlike myself to do that. But there's of course been a handful of moments that I can sort of bookmark in my mind and go back to, where I think about they were pretty dark moments. And looking back, I remember one I lost. This is probably at least 3.5 years ago. I lost like $1,000 trading, which for me at the time was an insane amount of money to lose trading. And I remember I lost that, and it felt like the end of the world. And I was like, maybe I just shouldn't do this. I hate this feeling. And obviously I'm thankful. I was never seriously going to quit trading, and it's one of those things where you have to be so comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to completely immerse yourself in the uncomfortability of the situations that you're in, because it is the antithesis of human nature to trade these markets, and to have these ebbs and flows in your income and your net worth. It takes a long time to get used to that. It takes a long time. I would say my worst experience trading was, well, the beginning of it was the best. I did pretty well in the first leg of the 2020 Bitcoin bull market. We went from 10K to 64K, and then down to 28K, and then up to 69K. I did very well in that first leg from 10K to 64, and then I was way too exposed at the top, and rode that all the way down to 28K, and I really got taken to the cleaners there. I've made it all back and then some, thankfully. But moments like that, it's really dark, and you think it won't happen to you, and it does. And I will say this, trading is not for everybody. At least certain trading styles are not for everybody. I don't do well with the low time frame. Personally, I like to trade at least on the hourly and above. Try to cut out as much of the noise as I can. But yeah, I've absolutely at times thought about trading, because as any trader has experienced, you never feel like a bigger waste of life than when you get just taken to the cleaners. You feel stupid.
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel fear, you feel angry. There's no worse feeling than it. Truly no worse feeling. So you think about it, but it's important that if you're really passionate about something, that you keep pushing forward. As cliche as it sounds, do not quit. There's a lot of people out there that they say, it's impossible to read the markets. No, it's not. Nobody can predict with 100% certainty, but when you know what to look for, these markets are readable. You can be a consistently profitable trader, but you got to know who's just trying to take your money, and sell you, sell you a bunch of crap, and who's actually out there trying to educate and teach.
Yeah, absolutely. The most important part is the passion. If you do not have the passion, you are just wasting your time and especially your money.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where even before I was trading full time, I was, like I mentioned, I started off in real estate. It was always a love of mine. This idea, the untetheredness, no pun intended, of what being a trader means and stands for. In the digital age, being able to produce a living, connect with people, be a participant in this virtual arena of whether it's a brokerage account or crypto exchange from anywhere in the world. Not like I'm necessarily a huge traveler, but the untethered nature of not having to be set in one location. It feels freeing. It was always appealing to me. But the passion for trading has always been there. And I'll say, if you're not willing to, to make those sacrifices, to go through the mental anguish of sitting there, mourning the loss of a silly amount of money for a silly mistake that you presumably made, spend hours staring at a screen, really getting into the nitty-gritty, trying to educate yourself, it will not work. You have to be truly obsessed with it to succeed at it. And I believe that to my core. It has to be an obsession, not just something that you're interested in.
Absolutely agreeing here. What do you think is the biggest mistake most people make in trading, especially beginners?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. It's something I had already mentioned. I think a lot of traders get sucked into scalping right away, which is an extremely difficult thing to conquer. I would say most traders, they find it very attractive to study the 1 to 5 minute chart, where I think that most beginners should be focusing on high time frame swing trades. I would say don't even look at the minutes. If you're a beginner, I use it just to try to pick out entries now. But you want to trade, probably 4-hour chart to even the weekly chart, and identify high time frame support and resistance levels or imbalances in the chart. And go off of that. I think that the biggest mistake people do is they think they're going to just scalp with big size on a low time frame, and they get blown up right away. So they oversize, and they trade the wrong time frames as beginners. They go right to expert level, and they should not be doing that. And I'd say also, touching on that, they go in with real money. I think most beginners, when you're just starting out, you should just be paper trading, and then you'll realize pretty quickly how much money you would have lost if you were actually trading with real money, and you think you're going to go in there and just, clean them up and make a bunch of money, and you're not. You're going to get taken to the cleaners, trust me. So start with a paper trading account, take it seriously. I know it's a little tougher to get into because your emotions are not the same with it, but, start with high time frames, try to do some swing trading. Educate yourself as much as possible. Stay off the low time frames in the beginning, and use fake money. So that's the best advice I can give.
Okay, interesting. When you look back on your trading career so far, what would you have liked to have done differently as a beginner or later on?
I don't necessarily say I want to do anything differently, because I have no regrets with how things have turned out. I actually think that the losses and some of the unnecessary education, the time wasted, has actually been extremely valuable. Maybe I'm just a glass half full type of person, but I was working with a couple people that teach them how to trade, and my first question to them was, have you ever gotten blown up? Have you ever gotten your teeth kicked in trading? And they said, yes. Yeah, we have. And I don't mean to speak of them like they're one person. It was two different people, two separate occasions, both with the same. They said, yeah, we have. We've basically lost everything, and we built back a little bit. And I said, great, I'm happy to help you then. And the reason for that is, I think without that pain, without those feelings, I don't think you can actually be a successful trader. I don't think that there is any successful trader out there that's never taken a humongous loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't want to say I would do anything differently. I actually think it's a natural progression to being a successful trader is going through all of that, the loss, the pain, persevering, coming out the other side. It changes you. And I believe that if you stick with it, it changes you for the better. So I probably wouldn't change anything. I am actually thankful for all the triumphs that I've had in my trading career. Was there a second part to that question? Forgive me.
No.
That's it? Okay. Yep, that's my answer then.
Okay. How do you deal with mistakes?
How do I view those mistakes?
How do you deal with them in trading?
How do I deal with them? So it's I like to say that it's really having a very like short-term memory when it comes to your trading and your losses. Is something that I used to do a lot more in my early days. Is I would lose a little bit of money and I would sit there for the next week and I would think about it and I would dwell on it and it would cloud my judgment. And now, if you ask me about a loss, I literally, there's no room in my brain to store it. I just immediately throw it out. Of course I remember it, but you'll never see me dwelling on it. So it's, how do I deal with it? Is I guess for lack of a better term, I initially identify where I went wrong. Like I'm talking right after I close out. What did I do wrong? I think about it. The next day, that is it. And it's a lot easier said than done because that'll sit with you. But you have to figure out a way to just get over it. Because if you sit there and you dwell on what you did wrong or what your account balance would be, if you did something differently or your timing was different, whatever it may be, whatever excuse, you're going to lose the next trade. It just is what it is. You have to just have really selective short-term memory when it comes to your losses. But that doesn't mean to just like forget about them and not learn from it. Learn from your mistakes. But find that healthy balance, as cliche as it sounds.
Yeah, absolutely agreeing with you here. What was your biggest learning in the cryptocurrency market, which is not trading related?
I would say my understanding of money, the fiat system. I would say that that's probably been my greatest gain that's come from crypto trading that isn't necessarily directly tied to crypto. For crypto trading, it's what makes sound money, what makes property, and how broken the traditional monetary system is and how corrupt central banking is, first and foremost. So I would say just sort of how I view a sort of what's behind the curtain look at how things have been since the 1970s, after the United States ditched the gold standard. So.
Okay, interesting. If somebody comes to you and says that trading has destroyed him or her financially, maybe also put him into debt, what is your advice in that situation?
Well, first I would like to say, if somebody is borrowing money to trade with, especially as a beginner, that's a recipe for disaster. So my hope would be that somebody would come to me beforehand and say, hey, what do you think about me borrowing some money to trade with? And I could prevent that situation from happening in the first place. Assuming that happened, I would recommend that they find another source of income, a different type of employment to get out of that hole. I would never recommend that somebody that is in debt and has a bill they have to pay, especially one that's accruing interest, that they lost trading the markets. I would never recommend that they borrow more to try to trade out of that hole or anything like that. I would say, get your checks and balances in order. Let's take care of that debt. And if you want to circle back and talk about effectively and responsibly trading, I'm happy to hold your hand and try to teach you whatever I can to help you succeed. But that's a very dark hole, and I would urge everybody to, especially at the beginning, steer clear from trading with any type of debt. I think that's a recipe for disaster. If you're a very, very experienced trader, it can still be dangerous. Leverage is it's a very important tool. And if used appropriately, it can be a really wonderful thing. But I would recommend that, especially beginners, stay far away from debt and margin. Just trade with cash. And it's a horrible situation losing just your cash, but there's something much worse than just blowing up your cash account. It's blowing up your cash account and then owing your broker or your bank or whomever money. So stay away from that if you can.
Absolutely. The next question is a bit similar. When do you think a person should realize or accept the fact that trading isn't going to work out for them? Is there a certain time period you would say a person needs to go through to know that?
That's a great question. I think it's different for everybody. I do believe that the majority of people out there have what it takes to be an investor. They have to just find a style that works for them. I think that there's certain people out there that are very highly intelligent people that have a capacity to deal with volatility and drawdown more than others. And their style is going to be much more different than like a, average IQ, but, disciplined individual with a, let's just say like college level understanding of finance. There's a place for both and they can both be successful. So I truly to my core believe that, let's just say like 90% of people out there, because I know there's going to be like the 10%, the outliers that just, they're very, in the most respectful way, unintelligent and, maybe have like gambling addictions or something that, prevent them from being a successful trader because the markets are dangerous. But I do believe that 90% of people out there can be an investor, and it might take somebody 6 months to become consistent or profitable. It might take somebody 6 years. But I do believe that for the 90% I'm referring to that have the capacity to be investing their own money, the only way that you don't make it is by quitting. And you just have to find the style that works for you, and that might take a lot more time than somebody else. But I do believe that 90% can do it, and the only way that you can is if you quit.
Absolutely agreeing here. We were talking about the factor of passion earlier, and I would say as long as you have the passion, keep going.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny that you've mentioned the 90 and 10% rule. It's been said that 90% of traders lose money. How can I be in the top 10% that don't?
Yeah. I've heard that thrown around too. I wonder where they get those stats from. But yeah, I think the reason the 90% fail is because they lose money and they hate how it feels, and a lot of people they run from pain, they run from discomfort. People that are successful, that 10% in your statistic, are probably people that have a different outlook or approach to discomfort. Where they face it head on and they challenge it. And they say, I'm not going to run from this. This is something that I want to learn how to do, and that feeling sucks, but I'm going to learn from it rather than hide from it and, basically say, well, I can't ever feel like that if I just don't do it again. Well, how about if I learn how to do it, then I can feel amazing. You just can't quit on it. I think that's probably where that 90% that actually fail comes from, is they just quit.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you assess the market for 2023 with these bad economic conditions and the geopolitical tensions, which could also affect the West? Do you believe in a new Great Depression? And if so, is this even a good time to even start trading and investing as a beginner?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely not easy mode right now. I would say that if you're a beginner, if you are going to start, I would never say no. But if you are going to start, watch your sizing, tighten validations. Don't go trying to bet the family farm that something's going to happen or not happen. Okay, just take it slow. My outlook going into the end of the year in 2023 is more or less the following. I'll try not to be too acutely focused because I'm got the chart on right behind where we're talking, so I'm gonna try not to focus on the little intraday moves, but. I think that we're entering a technical recession going into 2023. I believe that a lot of people are misinterpreting the downtick in headline CPI that we just had as a bullish thing. And I think the markets are reacting short-term bullish, but ultimately people are forgetting what's causing the downtick in headline. Why would CPI be dropping? All right, well, for one, they've been raising interest rates a bunch, and that's a delayed reaction. So individuals and businesses are just about to start feeling some of those 50 and 75 basis point rate hikes. Second, we still have unemployment at 3.5%. I do believe that this Fed-induced technical recession is going to yield an unemployment probably over 5%. And at the same time, we're seeing companies beginning to lay off workers. When you look at headline dropping, it's the Fed set out months ago to basically kill demand. When you kill demand, a bunch of other things. I won't get into the whole spiel, but basically, when you kill demand, it puts a lot of pressure on businesses, and they have to lay off workers. The consumer's not spending as much, and valuations across the board are getting slashed. And I think this is a textbook technical recession. Our yield curve is still inverted. You take the 10-year, you subtract the 3-month Treasury yields, and you can basically see that we are still inverted across the board. And as soon as those yields begin to uninvert is actually when we enter the recession, not the opposite way around. So it's one of those things where I think we saw for the past decade plus, the money printer went crazy. Everybody had access to extremely cheap debt, which in turn allowed them to basically just turn around, borrow money from their broker at 2 or 3%, go buy Apple stock, earn 14% appreciation on those shares in 1 year when they borrowed at 2%, and they arbitrage that, and they're making 12% per year buying blue chips, and they're outperforming every hedge fund, and they think it's up only, and they're a genius. Well, what happened after COVID and the money printer went crazy is the Fed, basically to stop us from entering a hyperinflationary environment, they turned the music off. So I think going into 2023, we're on pace for a very textbook technical recession. My positioning is very cash heavy and actually beginning to scale into some longer dated QQQ or, the NASDAQ ETF QQQ puts. So I think I'm bearish. I think that it's ultimately it's a good thing in the long term that this is happening. I say this, it beats the alternative. So my outlook is bearish heading into the end of the year and Q1.
All right, interesting. I think we both can agree that the Bitcoin and let's say the crypto button in general will be in sometime next year. Maybe it is in now, I don't think so. But my question is, what is your final price target for the Bitcoin and Ethereum sell-off?
Yeah, that's another good question and a tough one to answer, but I'll do my best. It's hard to say what would have happened if this FTX saga, Alameda saga never went down. We'll never know if we were closer to a bottom or had already bottomed. But anyways, I think that, Bitcoin, if you overlay Bitcoin with equities, you can see that Bitcoin typically tops and bottoms before equities do. It's actually a bit of a leading indicator. Given that, Bitcoin just put in a new low, even though it was catalyzed by the FTX Alameda insolvency, I would argue that, if equities do make a new low here, Bitcoin continues to slide much further. So, I have some nice technical levels I'm looking at on Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you had a gun to my head and you said, Max, where is like the global bottom on Bitcoin? I guess I'll give a range. I would say between 8 and 12,000 on Bitcoin. On ETH, I would say between 650 and 450. Gun to my head.
Yeah, my price targets are pretty similar, to be honest here. Which cryptocurrencies are you currently accumulating in the bear market or plan to do so in the near future?
I have some spot Bitcoin. My only crypto holdings are Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana at the moment. It's really a long-term spot bag that I'll never really touch. Then I'm really sidelined with stables and cash. So, I'll play the markets with that money. But I'm not really interested in accumulating aggressively quite yet. If you look back at historic bottoms in the crypto space, but more specifically, I'm focused on Bitcoin. The bottom accumulation zone typically forms within like 3 to 6 months. So I think that we're going to have plenty of time to buy that bottom. And, I think, let's just say hypothetically, right now, this recent markdown below 17K is our new accumulation phase. I don't think it is, but hypothetically, we would have at least 3 to 6 months to start accumulating in, a 20% range. So I'm not accumulating here. I'll probably begin to redeploy stables and cash into Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum. I'd say maybe around like February, depending on where things are at.
Okay. Are you buying any other assets besides cryptocurrencies, or nothing at the moment? Just cash?
If you consider QQQ puts an asset, then yes, I'm buying.
Okay.
No, I'm not buying anything. There's a few, obviously, the obvious blue chips that I might be interested in diversifying a little bit. When I believe that macro low has been set, I'll probably buy some like Apple, Amazon, Google, whatever, something like that, or maybe even just like SPY shares, just to have a little exposure to it. I'm not super interested in that. I do believe that Bitcoin is going to be the outperformer over the next decade. So I'm mostly interested in, whenever that bottom does come, in my opinion, acquiring as much spot Bitcoin as I possibly can.
Could you achieve your financial goals so far with trading cryptocurrencies? And do you ever plan to leave the space when a certain personal goal of yours is reached?
Yeah, well, I think I'll be here for a long time. This is something I'm really passionate about, and I'm very interested by it. I doubt that I'll ever truly or entirely leave. I do have some goals. I have a number that I would like to reach, and I think if I do reach them, it gets to a point where if I am fortunate enough or blessed enough to reach those goals, I'd probably like to spend more time away from the screen and park those in certain investment vehicles that can yield me some sort of fixed income. It doesn't mean leaving the space, but I would say materially changing my investment style to accommodate a more calm life. And, at that time, I'm sure I'll have, kids that I'd like to spend a lot of time with. And I would hope to be as present for them as I possibly can. And, I think I'm trying to picture living like a very happy, peaceful family life, being a cryptocurrency derivatives trader. And I struggle to see the two fitting perfectly together. So, it's either, maybe I reach that goal, that number that I have, where I believe I can park it in a, piece of property or a dividend, ETF, and live off the yield and live comfortably. Or, maybe it's the realization that, there are things more important than money, and I don't want to miss my kids growing up, future kids growing up. So we'll see what happens first.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense what you're saying here. Can you tell our listeners about the future plans of BecauseBitcoin, if you can? I mean, me personally, I kind of know what could be coming soon, but our listeners don't, of course.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we're gonna stick with exactly what we're doing right now and continue to focus on that. I love the direction. I love the hard work of everybody, Valentin, yourself included. We're building something special, and the concrete foundation that we're laying it's really fun to see happen. And we're building it at a not so opportune time. We're building this company called BecauseBitcoin in the midst of the Bitcoin bear market, which is funny, but someone's got to do it. So we're not going to quit. We'll be here kicking and screaming years from now, even if Bitcoin's still down. But we're going to continue to write articles, trader diaries. We've got 3 YouTube shows right now. the goal for the YouTube is I almost want to make it like a TV channel where whenever you go to Because Bitcoin's YouTube, there's always a live show going on. Maybe there will be like little 10 to 15-minute breaks or something like that. But I'd like whenever you want some sort of like market commentary, you can go to our channel and there's always a live show on. So right now, we've got our 10 a.m. Eastern time show. We've got our noon Eastern time show, and we've got our 4:15 Eastern time show. So there's a little bit of gaps there. There's some budget constraints, obviously, as a startup, but I'd like to get more YouTube personalities, more shows, really make it sort of like the Trader TV channel, with some of the brightest and the best that align with the morals, the ethics, and the philosophical goals of Because Bitcoin, which is about not just making money, but doing things the right way with integrity. Beyond that, we're actually in the early stages of fund formation. So we're going to be starting a cross-asset class hedge fund with some of the brightest minds on crypto Twitter that I'm not going to disclose on here quite yet, but it's the partnerships are going to be jaw dropping, and we're going to basically work. I'm already speaking with attorneys on incorporating the funds, so that'll probably be up and ready to go by the end of this year, and we'll begin raising money sometime in Q1. And nothing will change with the current state of Because Bitcoin, but there will be opportunities for select individuals, accredited investors, to participate in the fund, and we'll do some very interesting. Part of the fund will be VC work as well. So we're going to be we've got some really awesome connections with an already very established, VC group, and we're going to basically sort of partner with them for deal flow. It's really exciting. It's really exciting because I do believe there's a void at the top right now. A lot of these big firms, the most prominent being Three Arrows Capital or Alameda, they're gone. They're done, and I'm sure they're very nice people, but they were irresponsible, and that's what happened to them. So, I think there's a void at the top, and I do believe that Because Bitcoin, has the brand, has the likeness, the connections, and right now we're establishing a dream team of some of the brightest and the best that have not only survived the bear market, but have thrived during the bear market, and we're putting together the dream team, and we're going to go out there and raise some big money and invest in some really great crypto startups. And my gut's telling me that within 2 to 3 years time, we'll probably be sort of the prominent top dog in crypto as it comes to financial commentary on these markets, as well as a fund. When people think of this brand, Because Bitcoin, it will be up there with some of those names I just mentioned in regards to their success, their achievement, their credibility in the space, as it was maybe before they got blown up. But yeah, basically right now we're building a dream team, and we'll have this thing up and running probably by the first of the year. So pretty exciting stuff.
Okay, sounds interesting. One last thing now. Give our listeners advice on how to deal with the bear market in general and how to trade the current market conditions.
Yeah, how to deal with the bear market. This is very, very cliche, but it's important. The trend is your friend. We are in a structural downtrend. It's much easier to swim downstream than to swim upstream. So recognize that on the high time frames, we are trending down. And, momentum is a very fickle thing, and you don't want to be caught on the wrong side of momentum. So I would say recognize that we're in a downtrend and look for shorts. Also, if you want to size in the bear market while we're in a structural downtrend, your shorts, the sizes of your shorts should be larger than the sizes of your longs, position sizing. On the flip side of that, if you're looking to long, recognize that you're playing a counter trend rally, size down on your longs because you recognize that momentum is against you on the high time frames. And then just from the mental side of the, hang in there. These are not easy conditions. Some of the best and the brightest are getting blown up left and right. This is not beginner mode. This is expert mode. So size down, trade with the trend, and don't be rushed. Do not be rushed to like flip long or short. Slowly scale in and scale out of positions here.
So we're done now. We are at the end. I thank you a lot for your time. And if there's anything you want to tell the Because Bitcoin listeners, feel free to do so now.
Yeah, I would just like to say a big thank you to all of our early supporters. I sent a nice message in our private Discord last night. This is, like I said, we're building this thing out in the belly of the beast right now, and we have our new premium membership through our YouTube, which gets you access to a couple private channels within the Discord. Gets you a little bit more time with all the YouTube personalities and Because Bitcoin analysts and journalists. It's really encouraging that you guys want to support us through all this, and it warms my. We've been at this thing for about half a year now, and we're burning a lot of money, and you guys are helping keep the lights on. So I want to give a really sincere thank you and appreciation to all of the BB Chads out there. That's what we call our private members, the BB Chads, Because Bitcoin Chads. You guys are some of the smartest people that I'm just so thankful to have you. We're learning a lot from you guys as well, and you're so appreciated. And I made a promise to all of you that when this thing becomes a household name within the crypto space, or financial media space, or cross asset class hedge fund space, whatever we end up doing, you early supporters will not be forgotten, and we're going to make sure to pay you back and take care of you guys. So again, I just want to say thank you to the early supporters, the early community members, and to the team. The team is really just unbelievable. Valentin, yourself included, the hard work, the commitment. You guys, you really see the vision, and thank you for trusting me, in my role to lead you guys and steer the ship. And it's, I'm really, regardless of, market conditions, I'm living out my dream right now, being able to work with the Because Bitcoin team, every one of you guys, and, just connect with the community. It's really unbelievable. And I know it's a lot of responsibility, but I'm not going to let you guys down. I will be here the entire way for years to come. We're going to make this thing something really special. So I appreciate, the Because Bitcoin team and the community. I care and appreciate all of you guys. It's unbelievable to see.
Those were really amazing words for the end, and I can only repeat myself. Thank you. Thank you very much, Max.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Valentin.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Trader Interviews by Because Bitcoin. That was Max, the CEO of Because Bitcoin, a brand dedicated to trading these markets in order to own more of this amazing technology called Bitcoin. This interview was done by Valentin. He can be found on Twitter, as well as Max and myself. I'm Mr. R, and I'll see you on the next episode of Trader Interviews. Until then, make sure you check out more of our work on becausebitcoin.com and make sure you subscribe.